For most people, seeing 2 minutes into the future would be a dream come true. But in reality, it would put a target on your back. Before we get into the action, smash that subscribe button. The story begins with a man named Cris. He sits alone in a cafe, his eyes fixed on his watch. He waits for a specific moment, and when the second hand hits the mark, he suddenly turns toward the entrance, but he sees nothing. Later, Cris takes the stage in Las Vegas under the stage name Frank Cadillac, ready to dazzle the crowd with a magic trick. He invites a young woman on stage and boldly predicts that her necklace will slip into her drink in just a few seconds. To everyone's astonishment, it happens exactly as he said. Unbeknownst to him, 2 FBI agents are watching from the audience. Cris has a gift, or should I say, he's a walking time machine. With that kind of power, life becomes smooth sailing. Whenever he's low on cash, he casually walks up to a slot machine, presses a button, and wins every time. But Cris is smart. He never bets big, not wanting to draw extra attention. Cris may keep a low profile, but his streak of luck is impossible to ignore. The casino security manager Roybal and his team begin monitoring him through the surveillance cameras. Something about the way he plays feels suspicious. Then, in one moment, it almost seems like Cris knows he's being watched. He glances straight at a security camera. Roybal doesn't hesitate. He orders security to move in, but Cris has already seen this coming. He calmly leaves the table and heads off to cash in his chips. On his way out, Cris suddenly catches a brief glimpse of the future. Seconds from now, a masked robber with a gun will rush the cashier and open fire, killing 2 employees. Without hesitation, Cris moves. He steps up to the counter at the exact moment the armed man appears. The robber raises his gun, but before he can react, Cris disarms him in a blink. Security storms in, but they arrive too late to see what really happened. To them, Cris looks like the threat. Knowing there's no time to explain, he takes off. The alarm sounds, and every security guard in the building is sent after him. But with 2 minutes of foresight, Cris weaves through the casino with ease, dodging guards, cutting corners, and vanishing before they can lay a hand on him. He reaches the parking lot and steals a car, prompting a car chase with the police. As Cris attempts to evade them, he suddenly drives onto railway tracks and gets hit by a train. But it hasn't happened yet, and since Cris knows what's going to happen, he accelerates and manages to dodge the train, successfully getting away from the police. Meanwhile, FBI agent Callie Ferris, who has been watching Cris since the magic show, reviews footage of his escape from the casino. After replaying the footage, she reaches a startling conclusion. Cris possesses an unusual ability. Her supervisor, however, isn't focused on Cris. He reminds her that their top priority is a terrorist group that has stolen a nuclear weapon and plans to detonate it in Los Angeles. Callie insists that Cris could be useful, and after some pushback, her boss gives her 5 days to track him down. After escaping, Cris returns to a temporary hideout owned by Irv, an old friend and one of the few people who knows about his extraordinary ability. Cris casually hands him $20,000 from his winnings, leaving Irv stunned. The older man asks how he could ever repay him. When Irv notices the car Cris arrived in was stolen, he scolds him for it. As they play pool, Irv urges Cris to stop thinking about the woman who keeps appearing in his mind. But Cris insists he has already seen her at the cafe and plans to stay until he finally meets her. Suddenly, Cris checks his watch and senses that Callie is on her way. Irv warns him to run, but Cris chooses to stay, curious to hear what she has to say. Callie arrives and immediately tells Irv to leave. She wastes no time, getting straight to the point. She explains the situation with the stolen nuclear bomb and asks for Chris's help. Cris, however, pretends to be clueless, acting as if it's all part of a magic act. Callie doesn't buy it. She brings up the stolen car and threatens to have him arrested, but Cris still refuses to cooperate. As expected, Callie came prepared. Outside, a squad of officers surrounds the building, but then time resets. Callie hasn't arrived at all. Cris only saw the encounter moments before it was meant to happen, so he takes off. She arrives and misses him by seconds. At the same time, Roybal walks to his car in the parking lot, but is intercepted by a strange couple who attack him to extract information about Cris. The next day, Cris is back at the cafe. He checks his watch, and at exactly 9 minutes past 8, he turns toward the entrance. This time, the woman he's been seeing in his visions finally walks in. Curious, Cris approaches her and asks if he can join her. but she coldly brushes him off. Determined, Cris runs through multiple possible future scenarios in his mind, trying different ways to introduce himself. Each attempt ends the same. She rejects him. Just as he prepares to try again, the woman stops him before he even gets to his feet. At that moment, a man in a white suit enters the cafe. He calls the woman Liz and sits at her table. It turns out he's her ex-boyfriend, Kendall, who asks for another chance. Liz refuses. Kendall grows agitated, raising his voice and roughly grabbing her arm. Sensing his moment, Cris steps in. Using his ability, he starts aura farming, dodging Kendall's attacks while charmingly introducing himself. Yet even after all this, he still gets rejected. Seeing that this approach doesn't work, Cris decides to let Kendall land a punch. The unexpected move works. Liz chases her ex away and helps Cris to his feet. Finally, the two talk. Cris explains that he was supposed to be in Flagstaff, but his car was stolen. Surprisingly, Liz offers him a ride, since she's heading in the same direction, and they drive off together. Meanwhile, Callie and her partner Kavanaugh visit the cafe. After questioning the staff, they discover that Cris had come there every day for a week, always arriving at exactly 8:09, having a martini and leaving, except today, when he met Liz. The waitress tells them where the couple went. Kavanaugh then informs Callie about Royball's murder. He was found dead. It becomes clear that the terrorists are also after Cris. Elsewhere, at the seaport, the same man who killed Royball is seen meeting with the members of the terrorists, unloading what appears to be the stolen nuclear weapon. That evening, Liz falls asleep on Chris's shoulder while he's driving. She wakes up when they reach a part of the road that has been washed away by the rain, forcing them to turn back and stop at a motel. Since there's only one bed, Cris chooses to sleep in the car. At the same time, the police are closing in on them, having discovered which motel they're staying at. They are now 95% certain the nuclear bomb is somewhere in Southern California. Callie wants to use all available resources to capture Cris so he can help them find the nuke, and she deploys a squad to get him. Back at the motel, Cris gives Liz a rose as she steps out of the shower. She finally softens and lets him kiss her, the moment growing more intimate, unaware that he's being tracked. Meanwhile, FBI agents finalize their plan. Knowing Cris can see their moves 2 minutes ahead, they realize a direct approach is useless. To outsmart him, they decide to use Liz as part of their strategy. When Liz steps outside the motel to buy breakfast, Callie quietly approaches her and leads her to a parked car nearby. Inside the car, Callie shows Liz video footage from the casino. The clips are edited to make it look like Cris attacked someone violently. Without context, Cris appears dangerous and unstable. Callie tells Liz that Cris is a delusional sociopath. The video frightens Liz and makes her doubt everything she knows about him. Callie then gives Liz a pill. She explains that if Cris drinks it, he will fall asleep in 5 minutes. Liz is told to slip the pill into his drink exactly 2 minutes after he leaves the motel room. Back at the motel, Liz asks Cris to go wash up while she prepares breakfast. As she pours his juice, she drops the pill into the glass. At the same time, members of the terrorists are waiting outside, ready to shoot Cris if they get a clear shot. When Cris returns and reaches for the drink, Liz stops him and tells him everything. Cris calmly switches the glass with another one and steps onto the balcony. He drinks the juice, acting as if nothing is wrong, giving himself 5 minutes of safety. Back inside, Cris finally tells Liz the truth about his ability. He knows it sounds impossible, so he proves it. He switches TV channels and repeats what people are about to say before they say it. What Liz sees leaves no room for doubt. To protect her, Cris gives Liz a note with clear instructions. He tells her to follow them exactly after 45 seconds. Then he quietly leaves the room to draw the agents away from the motel. From her surveillance van, Callie feels that something is off. Outside, Cris checks his watch and jumps off the cliff near the motel. Callie and undercover agents rush after him. At the same time, the terrorists open fire, but Cris avoids every bullet by moving before they are shot. Back at the motel, Liz follows the note. She starts her car, puts it in gear, and lets it roll over the cliff. As it crashes, rocks and heavy objects fall down the slope. The agents chasing Cris are forced to hide to avoid being hit. Cris keeps running, but Callie is already waiting for him at the base of the mountain with her gun drawn. Suddenly, debris crashes down from above. Cris reacts instantly, pulling Callie out of harm's way and saving her life. She repays him by placing him under arrest. Cris is strapped to a chair, his eyes forced open as he's made to watch a screen. Callie pressures him to use his ability to locate the nuclear bomb and save millions of lives. At the same time, Liz is kidnapped by the terrorists. Pushing his power further than ever before, Cris looks into the future, and what he sees shatters him. Liz is tied to explosives on a rooftop. Seconds later, she dies in a massive explosion. Desperate, Cris begs Callie to let him go. He says he can't help while Liz's life is in danger. Callie refuses and orders him locked up. Eventually, Cris manages to escape. The FBI launches a citywide chase. Cris runs to the top of a parking garage. Callie tells the other agents to stay below and follows him alone. This time, Cris looks 2 full hours into the future and realizes it's a terrorist trap. When Callie reaches the rooftop, she asks what he saw. Cris tells her the truth. Liz will be killed on a rooftop in 2 hours. He offers Callie a deal. He'll help find the bomb if she helps save Liz. Callie admits Liz is being used as bait to kill him, but Cris already knows. Cris walks out into the open. From another rooftop, a sniper takes aim and fires. Cris collapses, appearing dead. Seconds later, an FBI helicopter swoops in and takes out the sniper. Cris gets back up, completely unharmed. Since saving Liz on the rooftop is impossible, Callie urges Cris to look further into the future. Pushing himself again, Cris sees a crucial detail: a white van carrying Liz, along with its license plate. The FBI tracks the van to a seaport and plans the assault using Chris's visions to avoid casualties. As Liz is being forced toward the van, the FBI storms the area. The terrorists are quickly taken down. The van tries to escape, but Cris tells Callie the exact moment to fire. Instead of exploding, the van flips over. Liz breaks free and runs into a nearby building. Cris guides the agents, helping them eliminate hidden snipers as they move in. Inside the building, Liz is captured again and used as a human shield. She's dragged onto a massive cargo ship packed with explosives triggered by laser sensors. When the FBI boards the ship, Cris sees the explosion before it happens and warns them just in time. During the firefight, Cris is shot in the chest. He had already seen it coming and warned the agents, who immediately take out the sniper. Inside the cargo hold, Cris scans countless futures at once. He pinpoints the exact location where Liz is being held by the terrorist leader. The FBI moves in. The leader threatens to kill Liz if Cris comes any closer. Cris calmly tells him he's seen every possible outcome, and none of them end well for him. Still, the man refuses to surrender. As Cris steps forward, the terrorist opens fire, but every bullet misses. When the gun clicks empty, the man reaches for the detonator strapped to Liz. Callie reacts instantly and shoots him dead. Cris rushes to Liz and assures her it's finally over. But then Callie reveals the truth. The nuclear bomb has already been moved. Cris turns toward the detonation monitor. His expression changes. He sees something terrible in the future. Callie asks what he sees. The bomb is already going to explode. Cris quietly says he made a mistake. In the next moment, the device detonates, killing everyone. Suddenly, Cris jolts awake in the motel room. Liz is asleep on his chest. It was a vision of a future that never happened. Spending time with Liz has pushed his ability further. He can now see 24 hours ahead. Knowing what he must do, Cris calls Callie and agrees to help find the bomb, but only if Liz stays out of it. Callie accepts. Later, Cris gently wakes Liz and tells her there's something important he has to do. He promises he'll come back. As Cris waits outside for Callie to arrive, he reflects on what he's learned over time. Every time he looks into the future, it changes. Callie pulls up. Cris gets into the car, and together they drive off to stop what's coming. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It really helps the channel.